All right, week 8 of college football. Let's start with Texas, Oklahoma State.
Mm.
Whew, what a game. Oklahoma State ends up winning 41-34. Let's just address this off the top before we break down the game. Yeah, it's weird that one team had 14 penalties and the other team had 0. That's odd, right? There's no other way to describe it. That's weird. That's strange. Doesn't happen.
I don't know that I've ever seen that happen, but I'm sure it has. And well, I don't know. Frankly, I don't know that I've ever seen that happen. I've seen it one-sided, and one-sided is usually a big factor in the game. I don't know that I've ever seen it this one-sided, though.
Correct. So now that we've acknowledged that, can we just talk about what actually happened on the field? Because I know a lot of people want to make it into, oh, this is the Big 12 punishing Texas. They're leaving.
Is
OU
that a
fans,
thing? I didn't know that was a thing. Is that what's going on social media?
Well, OU fans are saying, hey, this better not happen to us. It's like, hey, if the Big 12's out to get OU and Texas, we have addressed it. Now let's talk about what actually happened in between the lines. Texas blew another double-digit second-half lead. That's what happened. Yep. That's what they are as a program currently. They blow double-digit second-half leads. And it's not fair to put all the blame on one guy, but Quinn Ewers was bad in this football game. And I know it was windy. I don't want to hear it. Spencer Sanders was thrown in the same wind, guys. Ewers was erratic all game long. It started with the interception on that first drive. Like, he just never found any rhythm or consistency throwing the ball, and his offensive line wasn't great, but they weren't like god awful or anything. He missed all kinds of open wide receivers. And I know Steve Sarkisian's getting a lot of criticism, right? And he deserves it. That's what everything starts with the head coach, Ted. But Ewers is missing open guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Sark is drawing up plays, and these guys are running open. And I thought Sark might pull him at some point. I mean, this dude was 19 of 49.
Woo. Yeah, with 3 picks. And yeah,
the third pick wasn't his fault. Like Sanders,
right?
Was it the third one?
The tip
that was off Sanders' hands.
One,
like, you got to catch the ball, man. You got to catch the ball.
Yeah, and they didn't. I didn't think the Texas wide receivers helped him out late, like that final interception. I thought Xavier Worthy should have made that one play on the deep ball where he kind of lost it.
Did he lose it in the lights? What happened?
I don't know. Maybe the wind. I mean, you got to remember that field runs east and west. So we had like a 30-mile-an-hour south wind in Oklahoma. So I'm sure that they're getting some cross action on that. I don't know. He just did not track it well, or maybe he just was late finding it. I have no idea.
It was bizarre.
That's a play that he usually makes.
Yeah, if that's late in the fourth quarter in the end zone, and remember they end up missing the field goal after that. So that was weird. I don't know if it was the throw or Worthy or the combination of both, but that was a strange play. And yeah, so I thought Ewers was, he was bad. And on the other hand, I got all kinds of respect for Spencer Sanders now, man. He was really, really good. Now, he wasn't perfect, right? He had the bad sequence in that first half, right? He throws it behind Presley. Should have been a walk-in touchdown, the younger Presley. Mm-hmm. And then follows it up, throwing an interception on a horrible back shoulder throw in the end zone. But other than that, man, used his legs. They put the game on his hand, put the game in his hands, put it on his right arm. He threw it, I imagine, more times than he's ever thrown it in a game in his career.
57 throws.
If you would tell me, hey, Oklahoma State's going to have Spencer Sanders throw it 57 times, let's say they lose. That means they haven't been able to run it worth a lick, and they lose. Mm-hmm. But he was good. Now, the guy needs to work on his sliding technique. There's no doubt. But I thought, all things considered, he played a hell of a football game.
Yeah. Yeah. Gutsy late, played really well late. Oklahoma State scored the final 17 points of the football game. They didn't ever give up. They never really lost. That Texas held the lead from pretty early in the game for a long time, but they never really lost touch. What was the worst? It was 31-17.
Yeah,
was the worst before halftime.
And Bijan was ripping off big runs, and that was one thing. I don't know why late in that game they got away from Bijan, but they did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did, and Sark's going to have to answer for that. I mean, there's no doubt. But
they had a couple of times where, he would break off like a decent run, and then they would go back to it on first down and take like a tackle for loss, and they had to get away from. Or I don't know necessarily that they had to, but they felt, because of the way, I guess maybe things were going down, they felt pressured to get away from it, perhaps. But I totally agree.
One of the things in this game, and like you look at it and you kind of wonder, how did Oklahoma State win? They were awful on special teams. And now I don't think that ball hit Presley.
It didn't.
Right? It didn't hit him, but hey, it's what it got ruled, right? So they had that. Now that didn't end up costing them points, but they missed a field goal. They gave up a couple of big punt returns to Worthy. They got a punt block like Ted.
Threw an interception in the end zone.
Yeah. And for them to do all of that with all the guys that they have banged up right now, we've said it many times. Mike Gundy, while his clock management is not stellar, the man can coach. And for them to make all those special teams mistakes, to turn the ball over, like throw an interception in the end zone, to get down by 2 touchdowns early, and to just keep chipping away, that says a lot about that program. It does. I also think it says a lot about where Texas is at as a program. But that was impressive, man. They got it done. They found a way, and really, that's all that matters.
Nope, that's right. You just continue to grind, continue to try and make plays, play good, smart football. And this was, I picked Oklahoma State to win this game coming into it, and for me, the biggest factor was Quinn Ewers has not faced much adversity, and he hasn't played a true road game yet. And that was a really good atmosphere. It was a tough place to play. They weren't going to relent, and I feel like that was really the difference. He looked rattled out there, and he made some poor throws, ended up, like you said, 19 of 49 and 3 interceptions. It's just that got him beat.
Yeah. No, and he did have the one nice run that got called back for a very suspect hold. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I saw that.
Guy just buried Jones, their right tackle. I thought it was clean as could be, just buried him. I think that was Ford, maybe.
I thought that was a bad call too. And I had only just kind of was like, I was waiting on him to show the replay, and then I was looking away, and I looked back, and it looked like, I was like,
yeah,
not a good call there.
Yeah, I can imagine Texas fans weren't overly happy with that one. A couple other things from this game. I've become a big Bryson Green fan. Now, Texas, you got to tackle better, but what ended up being the game winner, that is a hell of an individual play from Bryson Green. And he's had a bunch this year. Like, he's turning into a highlight machine for them. And then really the thing, and I thought this may have been the biggest difference in the game. Oklahoma State, I questioned whether they were going to be able to run the ball against Texas, and they didn't run it great, but when they got down by the goal line, they ran the ball into the damn end zone.
Yep.
With Dominic Richardson, the pride of Bishop McGinnis. Let's go.
Yep.
3 touchdowns for him. Like, I thought that was, I was really, really impressed that they were able to do that.
Yep. No, I agree. It was tough. Overshown, man. He's a dude. He plays really, really good football, and that guy can cover some ground. And whenever he gets there, he brings some attitude with it. So it was difficult running the ball. I don't know what his numbers ended up being, but I just saw him flashing all over the place. But yeah, when you can cap off drives in the red zone with like nothing fancy, just kind of smash mouth running game, pretty impressive.
Yeah. So there's certainly a lot to be concerned about for Oklahoma State, most notably like it feels like they're the walking wounded now when it comes to that roster, but they're 6-1.
Yep.
They're right in the middle of it.
And here's the thing, and we said this earlier, but to be able to, and I know it was 14-0 whenever it came to penalties, but to win a game against a quality opponent when you make as many mistakes as Oklahoma State did, kind of didn't get the punt that was ruled to have touched, that was a turnover, the blocked punt, and throwing an interception in the end zone. And I think those three things happened like almost back to back to back, right? So it was to be able to, weather the storm, stay in the fight, show up for the second half, and play some football. That's the story on Texas right now. When they lost to Tech, we heard Joey McGuire saying it in the locker room, right? You keep applying pressure, they're going to fold late, and that's what's happened down the stretch here for Texas. So we'll see how they manage that moving forward.
Did you hear what our old buddy Dave Hunziker said on the radio call?
No.
It was something along the lines. I wish I had the audio, but it was something along the lines of this came down to one team that has a winning culture and one team that doesn't.
Ouch.
It was vicious, man. It was awesome. I can't imagine how much Oklahoma State fans loved it. Oh, it was great. It was a great line.
Hey, it's a great line, and find the flaw in it, please, if you can. All right, that's there's a lot of truth to that.
Here it is. This game was about a program with a winning culture and a program without a winning culture. The winning culture won tonight. Oh, Hunziker, they're already dead, man. Woo. Oh, that's good. All right, let's move on to the next game. UCLA went to Oregon and they got smacked.
Wow.
Now, before we talk about this game, do we just forget about what happened in the Oregon-Georgia game to start the year? Because, listen, I watched that game. Oregon got embarrassed. They don't look like the same team. And I know it's probably has a lot to do with them not playing the best team in the country, right? I get that. But they look really good, man. Like, I know they got whooped in week 1. I understand that. But it is possible for a team to get better, especially when you have a first-year head coach and a new staff. And this team, these Oregon Ducks, have gotten a lot better, and they look like a damn good football team right now.
They do. How about Bo Nix just ripping deep balls like it's nothing?
I mean, just dropping, like he couldn't have dropped them any better. Troy Franklin, we talked about him heading into the game. That guy's going to be a star. I think a lot more people know who he is now. That dude is a baller.
And that's, I thought it was going to come down to quarterback play, and DTR has been exceptional so far this season, and I figure he win the duel, and that proved to be incorrect. I don't know if you go up there and weather's a little bit of a factor. It's not, clean blue skies, 68 degrees like it is every day in Southern California. I don't know if that had an effect on the team or what, but Bo Nix won that shootout between the two players, and it wasn't really even close.
Yeah, and it looked like it was going to be a track meet early. And I tweeted it out pretty early in the game. I mean, it became clear to me that UCLA's defense had no answers for what Oregon was doing offensively. Run game was working. QB run game was working. I mean, Bo Nix, like you mentioned, was dropping dimes. 5 passing touchdowns. Just 5 touchdowns in general. 5 total touchdowns for Bo Nix. No interceptions. I mean, what really stood out to me is Oregon's O-line was mauling people. And UCLA, they've got some physical dudes in that front seven of that defense, but that Oregon O-line controlled the entire football game. Like Bo Nix was comfortable all day long. That was impressive, man.
And you got to remember, this is the team that just physically dominated Utah not very long ago, UCLA.
Yeah.
Like took it to them physically on both sides of the ball. And Utah has been kind of the standard in the Pac-12 recently for toughness, physicality, all of those benchmarks. And UCLA went out there and it kind of shoved their nose in it. So that tells you the level that Oregon's playing on right now. Pretty impressive.
I would not be shocked if we see these teams play again. Remember the Pac-12, they got rid of divisions. Pac-12 championship games, the top two. And because really, I thought UCLA's offense did some really good things, right? And you mentioned DTR didn't have as big of a day as Bo Nix, but that offense was good enough to win the game. You know what I'm saying? And Zach Charbonnet, he continues to be an impressive back. He's one of my favorite running backs in the country. But ultimately, I thought it came down to red zone execution. Right? UCLA settled for too many field goals. Oregon, no problem. Punched it right in every time. And I'm not even sure. I'd have to go back and check, but did UCLA even punt in this game?
I do not know.
I know the offense, like the offense was not the issue, but I'll give credit to Oregon's defense for stepping up in the red zone like they did. But yeah, I would not be surprised at all if these two teams play again. And man, with the way that the year started, the fact that Oregon now is the only Pac-12 team that doesn't have a conference loss after what we all were saying about them after that Georgia game. I mean, credit to Dan Lanning. That was they look like a really good football team right now. Why are you making that face?
I was about to say, I don't think either team punted, but there was one punt in the game. Oregon punted one time.
Yeah, UCLA did not punt. They just kicked a bunch of field goals. And one thing, and it was early, and it was a massive play in the game. Like getting the extra possession with the surprise onside for Oregon, like that was huge. I mean, it was massive. And for Lanning to call that when he did, that was impressive.
Yep. That's a big win for Oregon. Hey man, they're marching. They look solid. You're right. I mean, with the way things look like they may unfold out there, they're big time in the driver's seat. Do they still play Utah, Oregon?
I don't know.
I don't think UCLA does. UCLA already played them. I got it right here. They play Utah late. Yeah.
I was about to say, because they went away from the divisions, but the schedules are still the same, so they should play them.
They're at Cal, at Colorado, and then Washington at home, Utah at home, at Oregon State to end it. That's 3 tough games. Oregon State's pretty salty. That's a 6-2 football team. Washington's 6-2. So, yeah, they got a tough schedule here to finish out.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about an interesting game in Fort Worth. Kansas State went to Fort Worth, jumped all over TCU, but ends up losing 38-28. I'll just say it. I feel like we got robbed of a really good game. That's how I felt, right? The first half. Now, and I text you about it during the game. The first half of this game put my brain in a pretzel. I mean, Adrian Martinez gets hurt on the first play of the game. He plays the rest of that first series. We never see him again, right? In comes Will Howard, and I'm thinking, well, this game is over. And all Will Howard does is come in and absolutely light it up for Kansas State. All he does is come in and lead 4 straight touchdown drives. Ted, guy was throwing darts. Now, Warner really helped him out on that touchdown catch. There's no doubt. But he was pushing it down the field. He was aggressive. He was running tough. Like Deuce Vaughn was running wild. Kansas State was up 28-10 in the blink of an eye, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
I I feel bad about this, but we're watching the game at my parents' house, and Will Howard is in. I was like, "This game is about to get ugly," and Will Howard looked pretty good. Like I was like, okay, just a matter of time. Beginner's luck, whatever. And finally, my dad's like, "Looks like you're wrong about this Howard kid. Looks pretty good to me." I was like, "You're right."
He looked great.
Yep.
He looked great. Now, when you look at, what made the difference in this game for TCU, clearly, I mean, we'll never know what it would have played out like.
So what was the deal? What happened? I missed the injury. By the time I was in watching it, he was already out.
He ran it on the first play of the game, and he got up, and he just like it. I don't know if it's a knee or what. There's some people theorizing that he was hurt coming into the game and that they just put him out there to see if he could go, and he decided, I can't go. I talked to Adrian Martinez in the middle of the week. He seemed really excited for the game. So I don't know, but yeah, it was the first play of the game, because you can see on the throw, he has some throws on the rest of the drive. He's not putting like any pressure on his leg when he's throwing it out there. And I was like, uh-oh. And then we never saw him in. This is something that you really never think of, but there was no sideline reporter for this game. So no one ever found out. Like the announcers, it was Tillman and Brando,
yeah.
But it was there was never a report of any kind, like no information about what happened. It was really weird.
Yeah, that was weird. Because he's, to me, I never saw the injury, so I see him just standing there with a helmet on, looking like he's ready to go in the game at any moment. I was like, did he get benched? Like, what? Like, was it that bad? He doesn't look like he's that hurt to me. So that was wild. I mean, I think whenever they went to the third stringer, Rubley, and he goes right out there and throws a terrible interception.
The no look.
Oh, just throw it. He's always been open in practice. That's it. Let's just close your eyes and let it rip. Yeah, that was fascinating. But how about Will Howard getting up and getting back out there, man? Tough, gritty effort by him.
Yeah, he went down, came back. I'm not going to fully apologize to Will Howard. We've been very critical of that young man, but that was pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. Now,
give him a chance.
TCU, the middle of the game, right? You hear a lot of people talk about the middle eight. Now, that was huge for them in this game, right? Those couple possessions before halftime, those couple possessions after halftime, right? I thought that they really started to find their groove offensively at the end of the first half. They score, get the ball out of half, score again, and it felt like momentum was on their side at that point. The missed field goal for K-State hurt. I mean, it really hurt at that point in the game there in the third quarter. But yeah, it was interesting. If Will Howard would have been able to hit Warner on that, he was open for that touchdown late, and they ended up missing that other field goal. They get no points on that drive. Who knows what happens, but Max Duggan, man, guy battled. Another solid performance from him. Kendre Miller, I think he continues to be one of the most underrated players in college football. I mean, the guy's just a playmaker.
DeMarcado as a 1-2 it's really a 1-2-3 with Miller, DeMarcado, and what you get from Max Duggan in the run game as well. I mean, it's potent. It's potent, and especially whenever there's always the deep threat. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. As a D coordinator, you're terrified of ever leaving one of your corners in one-on-one with Quentin Johnston. So that threat there is always just hanging over the top of your head. It makes them even more effective in the run game.
Yeah. And Quentin Johnson had another huge play. Right, Brent's the corner just stumbling around.
He mossed his own guy. Was it Darius Davis that was down there?
Yeah,
He just goes right over the top of him too. That was awesome.
but even Wiley, the tight end, had some big plays.
He did
for him.
He did. Had a couple of really nice plays over the middle. He was effective. Their skill position group, the wide receiver group, looks like a basketball team.
Yeah, I don't know how good they are. I really don't. Like when you talk about college football playoff and that type of stuff, but they've beat 4 ranked teams in a row. And Sonny Dykes, hell of a start to his tenure there at TCU. And all I know is JT Daniels better watch out next week because all TCU does is hurt quarterbacks.
No doubt. No doubt. I don't know. It's hard to say how good TCU is, man. I thought at times their defense looked pretty good. Like they've got moments out there where they look good.
Dude, Will Howard came in the game and went up and down the field on him.
I know.
That's where I went, okay. Maybe it's just I'm not going to use the word disdain, my skepticism when it comes to Will Howard's skill level. How about that?
Right.
For him to come in the game like that and just go up and down the field, that was a bit alarming for me when it comes to TCU's defense.
I agree. I think with their personnel, they run the wrong scheme, but the scheme is what it is. And, cause their two backers they're good. TCU's they're good.
I know we're still mad at Hodge for hitting Dylan Gabriel the way that he did, but as I continue to watch him, he is everything you want an inside backer to be. That dude is straight up. If you had to say, hey, what's one word you would use to describe Jamoy Hodge, I would go violent.
Yeah.
He is a violent football player.
He's a missile. A bunker buster. I don't know what you would call him, but the dude he plays hard. He's fast. He covers a ton of ground, and he shows up with bad intentions. They both do. Both the inside guys do pretty good. But no, I'm with you. At TCU, I feel like their offense is going to be good enough to continue to roll. You know, they're not a perfect football team, but the record is what it is at this point.
Yeah, at this point, you're like, are they better than Michigan? Probably not, but are they better than Oregon? I'd probably pick Oregon to beat them if they were playing on a neutral field, but it's like, hey, they're undefeated in the deepest conference in the country.
Yeah.
So
a team like Michigan, I feel like they would do way better than a team like Oregon for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like I know that I feel like Michigan is just, and I know they're a little bit better at quarterback, but I feel like they're much more of a one-dimensional type of football team. And I think that helps TCU out a little bit, but I could be wrong.